What up brothers, it's Clipper King returning for another new review for my channel on the figure you see in front of you. It's been kindly lent to me by a friend of mine in the Facebook community called David Haigh, and as you see, it's the ACI Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. I will say also, it is the special version, so it does include the additional sword. So massive thanks to David for letting me see this figure. He knew he was getting it really early on, and he did send me a message via Facebook saying, do you want to review this figure? Around that time I'd already had a price for it myself and was considering picking it up, but I will be honest and say the price that I got were a little bit more than I expected, because I honestly felt that ACI was a little bit cheaper than Hot Toys, but were an Hot Toys kind of price. So I thought, I know we're a little bit naive, I thought I'll leave it for now, I'll wait till the price comes down in Hong Kong and then I'll pick one up. I didn't know that they were so limited or there's so few of them. They sold out and the price sort of went up quite rapidly. So I honestly can say I did miss out on it, although I knew I was always going to be able to review one as well. So the lucky thing as well with David asking me, he is quite local. You guys know I'm sort of from between Sheffield and Rotherham, and he's only from Barnsley, which is pretty much the toilet that Sheffield and Rotherham shit on. I'm sure he'll have expected me to say that, because Barnsley is super Yorkshire, so when you think flat caps and whippets, that's where Barnsley is. They can't even talk right. So yeah, it's like Rotherham and Sheffield's poorer relatives, and he'll love me for saying that. But no, I jest. I am lucky through the Facebook friends I've got and the YouTube friends that I do get to see these figures. They do trust me, or seem to, because they know I won't damage the figure. I will cover any cost, so to speak. So it does really help me out. Talking about the Facebook group, I will say, same as the last few reviews I've done, I will do the game of the day when I've put on Facebook that I'm just about to start filming, and you've got sort of the space it takes me to film this review to see if you can guess the amount, the total score that this figure gets. Anybody who gets the figure correct gets a shout out in the end credits of the video. So please participate in that, guys. We'll have a little bit of fun. So, before I roll on and do the source material, I'll just show you the initial pose. Pretty much just an upright position. He's holding the sword and the pipe, as you see. Just got him stood on the base, and I wanted to at least do one pose displaying him with the hood on. So I thought this would be the obvious pose to do, because it sort of would be the chronological appearance in the film. You would first see him in the bar in Brie, and he's wearing the hood. So quite mysterious looking, and that's what I wanted to go for. I will say this cape works really well as well with this figure, so you can sort of get it positioned and you still see the eyes through it, and it looks really good. So I just wanted to explain that before I start talking about the source material, which is what I'm going to do now. So let's get some scores on the doors. We'll start off with the source material like we always do. And I'm going to start off by saying the original Lord of the Rings trilogy for me is the top cinematic trilogy. And let me qualify that. The others that I would personally put up there with it would be the Godfather trilogy, although with part 3 being pretty weak, that wouldn't stand with this. The Back to the Future trilogy again, the third part I thought was really weak also, so again, I wouldn't stand it with this. And then we're looking at Star Wars. Now, Star Wars would be the closest, I would think. And I'm talking the original trilogy, not the prequel trilogy. But I just feel that as a writer, George Lucas is pretty good, but not as good as Tolkien. And as a director, George Lucas is average and not as good as Peter Jackson. That is what I honestly feel. And where I feel that Star Wars over-relies on special effects, the fact that special effects are so much better now, Lord of the Rings doesn't need to over-rely on them. It relies more on the credibility or the capabilities of the actors. So, like I said, some would disagree, particularly the Star Wars fans. They're probably blowing smoke out their arse as I speak. But I honestly feel that Lord of the Rings original trilogy is better than the original Star Wars trilogy. Probably not as iconic. Let me just put that on the end as a caveat, I suppose. But I feel that time for time, or period of history, so to speak, I think that Lord of the Rings is better and will age better than the original Star Wars trilogy. So that is how highly I rank it. I will also say that it's just a personal opinion, because this is the nostalgia film for me, and By that I don't mean it's what I went to see as a kid, because that's obviously not the case, but this is where I took my son. These are the films that I built the bond, or the cinema going bond with my son. These are the films that we went to see when he was just a kid, and I sort of, I don't know, I built a love for the film with my son, which obviously means a lot to me. And it's also the first film where me as a kid, I saw Star Wars as, when Star Wars comes out, I'm going to get a lot more toys. This was me sort of passing the book to my son and saying, when Lord of the Rings comes out every Christmas from 2001, 2002, 2003, I'm going to buy you merchandise from these films to build a collection. So that is why I rate it so highly. I hope that makes sense, because, like I say, a lot of my opinions, because I make them quite strong, a lot of people defend them quite strongly as well, and will jump up and say, no, this trilogy is better than this one. That is just my thoughts. So, Aragorn as a character within that trilogy, I think he's the star guy. He pretty much, there is about 10 stories running through Lord of the Rings, one of which is Aragorn sort of stepping forward, or sort of coming out behind, coming away from the sort of the downside of the acts his father's done, and accepting his responsibility as the future King of Gondor. And I think it works really well all the way through the film. It builds and builds as the film builds and builds, and he sort of comes to prominence really in Return of the King, obviously, but it is always building and you know where he's leading to. I think Viggo Mortensen plays it excellently, and yeah, he is the star man to me. Although Frodo is the guy who's actually on the mission, for me Aragorn is the star of the film. So that is how highly I rate it. So it would be no surprise to know that I've given the source material on this a 5 out of 5. Rolling on to the packaging, and I will say straight off the bat, I do really like it. The design of it, the instantly recognisable font, it is really, really eye-catching. The quality of the card is really good. It does have the magnet side with a wrap round, and the fact that I know the designer of the box also gives it one of them things, oh cool, that's good to hear. What I do like about it more than anything, I suppose, is the fact that it fits in with the theme of the other merchandise, or in this case DVD and Blu-ray, of the Lord of the Rings. So for example, if you see here, I've got the extended editions on DVD from when they first come out, and then obviously the extended versions on Blu-ray, which my son Callum actually bought me last Christmas. But if I show you the Fellowship, as you can see, the green with the it's sort of chromed lettering on the DVD, where it's like a flat yellow on the figure box. But I do like the fact that it fits in. It gives that leather bound feel, and there is something really cool about it. If I move just back onto the box, I'll also talk about some of the other things I like. So we'll start off at the front. As you see, top right hand corner, we've got the ACI logo. This is a little bit crude for me and not quite special enough to say you bought the special version. I'm thinking if you think of the Hot Toys exclusive badge or limited edition badge or so on and so forth, it always is more eye-catching than that. It pretty much just looks like a sticker that's been stuck on like an afterthought, and does kill the artwork a little bit for me. I'll not kill it, but just, I don't know, they could have done something better. Moving down, I do like the graphics on the Aragorn sort of nameplate, and then the design around it. We move on to one side. You see, again, same theme down the spine. This time showing off the figure, which looks good. Again on the opening end, showing the figure, again, looks really good. Then on the back, it is a full sort of readout of what the figure includes. So if you were to lift it on a shelf, so what is inside, it's all explained for you. So I do like that as well. A little bit cluttered looking on the back, but I do kind of like saying what the figure's supposed to include. If we open the magnet down the side of the box, which is quite strong, and bring it out, looking inside, again on the underside of the cover you get the Lord of the Rings, and then the inlay slip, which is like a pencil drawn version of Aragorn, which I'll just make a small note of. If you look up the Narsil blade or Anandril, you see the sort of the carvings down the centre of the blade. They do look more dwarfish than elvish to me. Then moving down, you see the Aragorn picture, and a point of interest, like I said, Aemon is Eamon O'Donoghue from the Facebook groups, or you'll have seen him around. He's quite an active member in Facebook, and it's really cool to know that he actually designed this whole box. I have messaged him to ask me if he minded me mentioning him in this review. He didn't seem to, and he just explained that he has designed a few boxes for ACI and other statues. And yeah, when I checked his page, he sent me his website, and he does show he's a illustrator and designer, so good work to him. Really nice packaging. Couple of little things let it down, and they're only niggly little things, whereas if I explained that if you look at the sort of the leather grain, if that had been textured, it would have made it really cool. And also if the lettering would have been raised or an indentation, and sort of the chrome reflective look like on the DVD case, I think that would have also took it to the next level and probably would have given it a 5 out of 5. But because it hasn't, I'm going to try and score it fairly and say I've given the box a 4 out of 5. Moving on to the facial likeness, but before we talk about it and get into depth, let's just have a quick look at the pose. As you can see, just got him as if he's about to start sword fighting. Up and down, got his legs spread now, looking balanced. The sword ready to go. Right, so let's talk about him from the neck up. First I'll talk sculpt. I've got to say, it's a really accurate looking sculpt. I see Viggo Mortensen in there, 100%. I think the sculpt is really, really good. The nose shape in particular, the sort of eyes and the dimpled chin, I think it looks really good. I think one thing, maybe the length of the forehead might throw it off a tiny bit, but I understand why, because of where the rooted hair seam starts. I think if they'd have brought it down much lower, then I think the bulk of hair sort of onto his forehead would have been a little bit too much. So I do see it as a really good trade-off. I think as well, saying, although the hair is really bad out the box, I think you can do something with it, but I will cover that in a minute. But I prefer the fact that this figure has got real hair and not sculpted. So I'm thinking about a figure like Thor, although it's really good and Hot Toys did a good job. I do think on a long-haired figure, it is always the sculpted head that sort of throws off the realism. So you don't get that problem with this. While I'm talking about the face, I will also say I do like the eyes. I like the depth in the eyes and the glassy appearance. But I will say, if anything lets the likeness down, it is more a case of the paint being not sloppy, because that's too strong, but not as clean as Hot Toys, particularly on the facial hair. I think the skin texture is really good, but like I said, the facial hair, I don't know, it just looks like a little bit too toyish, not natural enough for me. So if anything, if any inaccuracies are on the face, I would say it's in the paint. I think the sculpt is really strong, but the paint is maybe not Hot Toys standard. That's the point I'm trying to make. Getting onto the hair. Now, before we get into what I like, I will try and show you all the way around. I think if you watch a lot of scenes of Aragorn, his hair is normally wet through, soaked through, sweaty. I know in Return of the King his hair is more sort of, gives the appearance that he's sort of got it pulled back off his face and it's more sort of regal looking. I just want to move around first before I start talking about the hair. Now, at the box, the hair is pretty horrendous, to be honest. It's way too thick, too much volume in it, a little bit too long in places. It's as if they've plugged the hair, cut it to a certain length, and in some places acted it a little bit, so it gets that very unnatural looking step in it. They've tried to put soft layers through it, but it's not really happened. So yeah, it's way too bushy, full of static, very dull hair feeling, so not as good a quality as something like the Catwoman or the Black Widow figures. Trying to think of any other haired figures. Probably the Diamond 4 from Damn Toys. The hair is not as good as that straight out of the box. Now, although some people would want it like that out of the box, would want it 100% accurate out of the box, I don't mind it, because I think when you get a figure that you've got to sort of tinker with and put your own little bit of individuality into, I think you sort of build a relationship with a figure that you know yours isn't exactly the same as everybody else's. So some of the modifications I've seen, some of them looked really good. There was one on Facebook the other day, and as soon as I saw it, I think he'd got his hair pretty good. In fact, he'd got it really good. Some of them I've seen, and people took it out of the box and they said, well, I've cut here and I've cut here and I've cut here. I think, fucking hell, you've cut in straight lines and you've hacked it to death. And you've got to remember that the shorter the hair is, it no longer falls naturally. It sort of stands off the head. It looks like bedhead, which then makes it look thicker again, and you think, fucking hell. Also, because of how the hair's plugged on this figure, you've got to be really careful where you would cut hair from, because it would be so easy to make him look bald, because the hair is not plugged 100%. It's sort of plugged in certain positions. So if I show you, for example, if you were to remove some hair from here, which I can't see many people doing, you'd be able to pull it apart and look, you see the scalp there? So we're cutting the hair, I don't know. For me, it would be a last resort. I will say I haven't cut any hair on this figure. The hair is still as it came to me, although now it is heavily styled. By that, there's a lot of product in it. So it feels very coarse now and very... You know when you spray way too much hairspray on and your hair feels like... I don't know, it's in like individual strands. That is how this hair feels now, because I've done that with a putty that I put on it last night, and also overnight I sort of left the elastic band on, sort of under the nose to pull it into his cheeks, and also put some hairspray on it. So the hair now is very, very set, although the position of it looks really good, and it won't go back boof because look, it pops back down into place where I want it to go. See? So that is the hair as now. I really like it, and if this was my figure, I would do exactly the same as I've done on this one. I wouldn't start cutting unless it were the last resort, because obviously when you cut away, you can't add back to it. So like I said, some of them people who have cut it will probably look at theirs now and think, fuck, I've cut too much off. I'm sure they will. But anyway, that is how this one stands now, and I think it looks really, really nice. The likeness, because I suppose you shouldn't have to do that out of the box, I have knocked it down slightly, and because the paintwork is a tiny tad under Hot Toys standard, I wouldn't be able to rank it up there with sort of the Jack Sparrow figure or something like that, which I give a 5. But I wouldn't mark it down much because the sculpt is definitely there, and the real hair does add to the appearance, like I've said. So on the likeness, I'm going to give this figure a 4 out of 5. Rolling on to his outfit, but before that, I'll show you the pose. I stepped into action. I wanted to do a pose like that because I wanted to show how the layers fall, and the fact that it doesn't get too bulky looking, and also talk about if the outfit hinders the articulation anywhere. So just got the torch behind him. It's like when he's fighting the Wraiths on Weathertop. That's the look I've gone for. So, first things first, you see I've removed the cape. So let's talk cape first. You see I've got it laid here. The pin is attached, and you will just put it on like a poncho over his head and then drape it around him. You can see the cape is also weathered, particularly around the bottom. To move down, sort of painted. I will say the material is excellent, and another thing I like about it is on the inside of the cape, it's, I don't know, it gets very staticky. So when that rubs against the faux leather on the duster, it sort of holds the cape in position. So although it is a flowing thing and it looks really natural, you can sort of roll it and crease it and get it to hold in place, and it drapes really well, as you can see. Really, really good scale. That's sort of a lot better than any Hot Toys cape I've seen. This is the cape that like a Batman should use, because it falls really, really naturally. So I do like that. I will say as well, the hood, when it's over his head, does look really good. There's some stitching up the back, as you see there. So it comes to the point and then down over the head, which again looks a lot more realistic, a lot more authentic than something like the Assassin's Creed figure, where the hood pretty much didn't fit correctly. This one does, because they've used the right material. I will say as well, because of the weathering, there is sort of a kink at the front of the hood. I left it because I thought it looked really natural, but if you wanted to get that kink out, just put the robe or the cloak over a steam kettle, let it steam the creases out, and then when you position it, it will sort of naturally fall into the pleats you create yourself. So I do like that. That's a right touch. So looking at the figure, the main part of his outfit is the green leather duster. So it's sort of a long trench coat, which is very crudely stitched together to make it look authentic. See, it's as if he's laced it and pulled it through right up under the arm there. Looking up over the shoulder, you notice as well it is a dark green leather, but it's really heavily weathered as well, which again looks really good. You think about Aragorn and he's never indoors, he's always out. So his coat would become like that. Really well done. I'm glad as well they did it, then give us a crisp and clean one, because I used to have the Sideshow collectibles one, and the coat, although it were a nice material, it just never looked realistic because the colour were just too clean. Again, going down the arm, you see where the mud's washed onto it. He then has these sculpted gauntlets, one on each arm, which are done really well. Again, underneath that he has sort of a grey coloured undershirt, which you're not really going to see. You're not really going to see in this pose, but you see I did pull it through the bottom of the gauntlet and onto his hands, because that is screen accurate from the pictures I saw. Underneath the duster sort of has this long length tabard, which is sort of cut off at the sleeves, and then as you see up the front, it is pulled together with sort of a crude lace effect, or the threads of rope just tied together, and then at the middle pulled in with the belt. Again, really authentic looking, weathered, really good material. I will say the scale on the materials they've used are pretty much perfect. I can't fault them anywhere. The tailoring is really good. Although it looks like he's been fucking camping out for 900 years and he's covered in shit, it still looks really, really accurate. I think they've done a really good job, a really strong point on the figure. Again, you see the gauntlet on this arm. Moving down to the right, gloved hand. Yep. The belt as well, I will say, is a faux leather. It feels a little bit flimsy and a little bit thin, but because of how thin it is, it does hang correctly. It's not like them thick plastic belts where it sort of always pulls off to the side because there's no flex in it. It's really, really accurate, although like I said, be careful because you've got to put the sort of the scabbards on the belt, and every strap on it is really, really fine, so don't be pulling at them because I don't think they take much snapping. The thread on the necklace as well is very good scale, very fine. The weight of the Arwen star, I think it is, that pulls the chained arm. I'm lost for words there. Moving down again, the black trousers, which you wouldn't see a lot of because of the length of the coat and the tunic inside, but again, really nicely weathered. Moving down into the sculpted boot, which is, I think, probably the crudest part of this figure. It is a sculpted plastic, and it is, as it stands, really hard. You can warm it up to get position through it, like I said in the quick modification video I did before this one. But again, the paintwork is a little bit crude on it. It's sort of got the mud spattered around the boot. I think the colour's really accurate and the style with the laces tied. But I think when the rest of the outfit is so accurate looking and so authentic looking, the boots just leave a lot to be desired, so to speak. But all in all, the outfit does look really good. I don't think it hinders the articulation anywhere other than in the ankles as well. So I'm not really going to take any score off for that. I think the articulation limitations come from the body, not the outfit. Like I said, I think if you had it, you would know that it would be so hard to score anything other than a 5 out of 5. Rolling on to the articulation, and like I've already said, the outfit doesn't really hinder it other than the boots. So does that mean it's a sort of an hyper articulated figure? No, not really, and it's a strange one. I always have sort of when I'm going to do a review, in my mind I think of poses I want to do, or I try and get information that I want, or something that would be characteristic to the figure. And I will say, I've never seen an ACI body, so I didn't know what to expect, but I'm thinking, well, it's a closed figure, so it's going to be fully articulated. The clothes might hinder it slightly because of the layers. But like I say, in my mind, I'll build certain poses. I will say this is harder to pose than you would expect, or that's how I feel, because there is certain things it won't do, and the shoulders is one of the problems. With a true type now, you can sort of scrunch the shoulders, bring them forward, push them back, which gives them really natural lines, sort of curl them round onto themselves. They do pose really well. And then a figure that's normally got an outfit on will have a double bend elbow. Again, it's not the case with this. So the arm articulation is very limited, and I don't understand why it would have to be like that. Again, through the body, there is rotation, but layer on layer, sort of, I don't know, you never get a proper feeling of where it's going to bend, or I don't know, it don't feel like there's an ab crunch section. There is rotation through the waist, but I don't know, I find it hard to get a natural pose for it. On top of what I said before, the fact that the ankles are hindered by the boots. The legs, double bend knees work really well. The upper part of the leg kicks forward really well, but don't seem to kick backwards. So again, it's hard to get the legs in a natural position or spread where one's really major forward, one's major back. The hands are quite hard to swap out as well, I noticed. The gauntlet doesn't really hinder the articulation, but what it does is it sort of pushes the coat up, so it has another build-up of sort of material here, which, on top of the fact that it's only a single bend elbow, there is another limitation through there as well. The head moves really well. There's no ball joint at the lower neck, I don't think. Let me just check. No, they're in sculpted. I'd never checked that, which were shit on it. But yeah, there is limitations in the articulation, which, like I said, I don't understand why, but that might just be the case with the ACI body. It's not the best, it's not as good as a true type, so I'm not going to tell you it is. Not much more I can really say. This were one of the categories that were a surprise, but in a bad way for me. So I am only going to give the articulation a 3 out of 5. Just to explain the pose, I've pretty much gone for where he's just been given Anandril by Elrond, sort of the Narsil reforged, Flame of the West, which is the added extra that you get with the special edition. Really nicely done, but I'll talk about it again when I get to the accessories. But yeah, I've just got him as if he's pulled it out of the sheath and he's holding it aloft, sort of symbolic of him accepting the fact that he is going to go on to be king. So that's what I was thinking about with the pose on that one. But like I said, I could have got more extreme had the body been better. It's not, but that's just how it goes. Like I said, on the articulation, it's a 3 out of 5. Rolling on to his accessories, or extras, whatever you want to call it, and then that'll lead me straight into value. So, as we've talked about his outfit and the things it includes, so just to quickly go over them again, the full outfit including the duster coat, the Star of Arwen on his necklace, moving down, the faux leather belt that you attach the sword sheaths and the dagger sheath or scabbard, whatever you want to call it, moving right down, so the full outfit including the awesome robe or cloak, whatever you want to call it. So that would be the what you would class as the outfit. Really good. It gives him a really complete look. Moving on to his weapons, as you see, I've got his bow in hand and one of the arrows. Moving down, the elvish dagger, which I will show you shortly. The standard sword with a little dagger in there that everybody would get. Anandril, like I said, is the limited edition extra for the special version, and I will take that out of there in a minute. The quiver, he brings 3 arrows in total. It does have this cloth bag inside that you can put the arrows in, then shove it down inside. Again, really Really small, well scaled straps, but be careful here because I get a feeling that it won't take a lot to snap them. So yeah, a really nice touch. That's sculpted and painted. The torch, which I would think is a little bit cheap looking, but it does have an effect. Like I say, if you're recreating the scene when he pushes it into the Ringwraith's face. Moving down, he only has 6 hands total, set of fists. Sort of one that's looking like a point, but I suppose he could have it holding the sword while it's inside the sheath. The hand for holding the sword, and obviously see the arrow holding hand on the right, and the bow or sword holding left hand. You also get this stand, which I will say I'm not really keen of. It's very hard to move up and down. I don't know why, because it is just sort of the 2 metal rods in a cylinder, so, which is attached at the bottom. This paved area, which comes off, and I don't understand why. Don't know why you would want to take that off, but that's how it is. There's no nameplate, and I will say the sculpt and the paintwork on it is very, very basic. So a little bit of letdown on that and the torch. Other than that, the accessories are really good. What I want to show you, because I think it's an highlight of the figure, is the metal blades. If we look firstly at the elven dagger, it's a nice curved blade with the elvish graphics along it, sculpted into it or carved in. Really nice handle, looks really nice. As I showed, just fit inside the sheath there, which again is really well done, sculpted and paint. Moving down to the sword, I can't remember the name of his standard sword, it sort of eludes me, but again, nice handle, and then it is die cast metal, as you can see, it's catching the light. Really nice blade. You see it is quite a lot shorter than Anduril, which is the sort of the sword he receives from Elrond, like I said earlier, which has been excuse me, which were a reforging of Narsil, the sword that was used to cut the ring from Sauron's hand. I'll show you, there is gold highlights. See on the hilt, on the handle, and then a nice die cast blade. I will say there should be I'm not sure if it's dwarvish scripture along the blade on the real one, but this doesn't have it, but it is still a really nice touch. I don't know the price difference between the standard version and the special version, but it's dependent if you want that sword or not, but it is a nice touch, although it is a little bit heavier than the standard one, and sometimes you've got to sort of pose it in a manner where the hand's going to support it, so bear that in mind. So quite a good array of extras. I think like I said, anything outfit wise or weapon wise, they've done really, really well. The stand, not so much, and the torch is okay, but you're not going to go mental if it's not going to be the main thing you want. I would be happy to give this figure a 4 out of 5. The only thing that would stop me or would have pushed it up to a 5 would have been a second portrait or a second sculpt and a better base, probably with the nameplate on it as well. That would have possibly pushed it up to a 5 out of 5, along with the fact that you've got your die cast blades, which are really, really nice touch. But that's not a bad score for extras. Leading straight on to the value. Now, the price I got on this on release day, or when it started filtering through, was about £185 shipped from Hong Kong, and I thought, well, they're all going for around about that, so they're not going to sell because nobody knows about it, and I'll pick one up when it comes down a little bit. In my mind, I'm thinking, if that had been in region of 150, I'd have snapped it up because it's a figure. It's not perfect, but I can tinker with it. Pretty much like the Dredd figure, you can individualise it, and you'd have a really nice display figure. It's not the most articulate, so you're not going to be one of them figures that you pose all the time. I think you're going to get it as natural as you can and leave it, which I do like figures like that anyway, but also I do like the ability to pose them quite extreme when I choose to, particularly during the review. So, like I said, I left it, they sold out, people started seeing it, and the price went up. I didn't realise, but I have heard that they've only done 800 of these. If that's the case and you've got one, chances are the figure's going to go up in price. I think it was a little bit overpriced to start with, if I'm honest, but that's bullshit, because now it's already gone up, and you could probably, if you bought one for 180 like I should have done, you could probably sell that now for about 240 and you made 60 quid of it case for about 3 weeks. So value wise, I don't know. Do you get a lot for your money at that price? Not particularly, because I've seen DX figures for cheaper than that brought 2 head sculpts or 2 full outfits. So it's not really that impressive value wise. Would I like one? Yeah, I probably would. Would I pay 250 quid for one? No, I wouldn't pay that. So that pretty much says what I think value wise. I will also say as well, and I've got to keep coming back to it because it's one of the most important things with this figure. If you have bought one and you paid a decent price and you're thinking that's always going to be worth more, I would say just think about what have you done to the air, because the mistakes or the work you've done in the air might stop a potential buyer wanting it. So I would say if you have cut the air and you're going to sell it on, at least disclose it, because nobody's going to want a figure at this price point with a butchered hairdo. So I would just mention that on a side note. So on the value, I'm going to only give it a 3 out of 5. Like I said, I've gone straight down the line because it's overpriced to start with, but that price is going up. So we'll put a pause in there and I will have a look and see who guessed that the full score for this figure was 28 and a possible 35. Right, so let's have a little look, see who guessed the score was 28 and a possible 35. Come down. So, posted earlier, as I said, in the 1/6 scale views and reviews group on Facebook. If you remember, respect to you. If you're not and you're in another group, you're dropping a right bollock. Come across to this group because this is where all fucking fun and games happens. So anyway, earlier on I put game for today, who can accurately guess the total score of the ACI Aragorn figure. This is just to see if any people, if my score system sinks in, and I can understand that people in group, the clever bastards like me saying, they're not fucking idiots. Idiots can fuck off to another one of them groups with less people in, they'll not be bothering as many people. We don't want them in our group fucking looking stupid. Anyway, one guess only, Bruce Hodge, you cheating bastard, yeah. And then some winky faces. Look, put some winky face on for Bruce, because he cheated last time. Then I put some pictures up of the first pose I did, so let's have a little look. Have a look for your name, shout your missus in, show her, making you famous. I'm not being famous on my own, yeah. I'm taking some of you little fucking half-wits with me. That's what I'm doing. I'm helping your art. Might be the only time you appear on telly. Nobody got it or what? Come on, boys. Here we go. Here we go. Look at this smart arse here. Fucking hell. Giambrone. Is it Giambrone or Giambrone? I think I'll call him Dan Jabroni. I sure will love that. Dan Jabroni's got it right. 28. Get in focus. Look at these. Some are close. Get in focus, camera. Some of these are close, some are a fucking mile away. What's happening here? David Haigh, it's his figure and he got it wrong. I'll have a go, 27 if I'm even allowed to play. You're allowed to play, David. Sure you're allowed to play, but get it fucking right, yes? Okay. Here we go, Callum Newlands, 28, he knows. Tempted not to even give him a fucking shout out because that looks like a Man United bastard on his fucking little thumbnail. Don't want that polluting up my fucking YouTube channel. Any more? Any more for any more? Here we go. Nikolai Brandenburg. Goes by the name of Cyborg. I don't know if he does or not, but he does now. Nikolai Cyborg. Yep. Couple more. Anybody else? That's a fucking idiot. Derby Kante. You see names? Whoa, don't scroll too fast. Here we go, another one. J. L. Ward. J. L. Ward. What's he doing? He's got a little cheeky one on his arm, look there. A little treacle with him. Oof. Getting a little cuddle he is. It's like that, this is my bird. Beautiful, all loved up he is. Some other close ones, check your name. Here we go, Chris Jordan Michaels. Double barrel name, you posh bastard, you. What's that? He's got a little cartoon avatar with his thumb up. Oh, that's lovely, that. Any more? Dave Young. Oh, Dave Young. What's he got there? He's got a fucking little team event going on his thumbnail. Beautiful. 41 minutes ago. Dave Young, he guessed correctly. What's this half-wit one? Precious 29. There's only one Clipper King. Reviewer King even. To rule them all. That's correct. But Brian knows him will not get you a name check here, brother. Here we go, some others. And I put time's up. Time's up, brother. Name check time. But what did you do? You all carried on, look. Guessing. Guessing incorrectly. Nobody else got it right, so I'm not mentioning your names. Anyway. Another review done. Thanks to Dave Haigh again for lending it me. I'll get it packed up now, brother. Send it you back. I hope you like the styling on the air. I've sent you pictures, so I know you do, so I don't even know I've said that. But for now, thanks for the guys entering the contest. For now, I'm out of here.